Hey, what a way to kick off Friday. People, deluded, I'm back again. The head bopper, aka Alex, aka the different. Look, how you doing, my friend, man? My favorite field tilt merchant.
Good, brother. Am I on this?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
Good stuff. Good stuff. Yeah, I'm good, man.
Damaging
How are
my
you?
ears, but it's cool.
Am I too loud? Sorry.
No, when you was doing that, but it's
Oh,
cool.
sorry.
It's cool.
Sorry. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. I'm good. We got a lot to discuss, man, and we ain't got that much time. Again, appreciative to have you back. Appreciative to have you on the platform. They asked for you. You're here. The first thing I want to ask you, yeah, how difficult was it playing against Jamie Carragher, man? It can't be, you played up front. It's a difficult one against a Premier League experienced individual.
Do you know what? It's funny on those shows. Like I watched in real time as like the narrative machine happens, and like
That's why I found it interesting.
It's so honestly, like, so for example, that Scholes comment that went round about Mope, I didn't even hear it. I didn't hear it, like, genuine, literally, because it was like in crosstalk, so I didn't hear it. The Ethan moment that got clipped up, I thought I didn't understand. I didn't process what he was saying in the moment, so I was like, yeah. Wait, what? And then it moved on. And you watch in real time as like things happen and like narratives start and whatever. It's also just so interesting. I mean, from like an Arsenal perspective as well. Like they spent like 20 minutes needling Spurs and then like 20 minutes needling other clubs, and then they do 20 minutes on Arsenal. But obviously, from an Arsenal perspective, all we see is that. It was a super interesting like deep dive into like how the media works at the minute, where everything's so atomized. It was really cool. It was really cool.
That's why I thought it was funny, because like you said, people are only going to see a segment. And obviously, as being a content creator and being in not that situation, but similar situations, you could have that conversation and then you could see it. And it's the same conversation, but it's almost a very different conversation, like you said, in real time. And obviously, like them lot are the hosts. You only got about 5 minutes or so to speak and argue and counteract your point. So it's interesting, man. But yeah, next time we need to see a better performance against JV Carragher, man. We need to. But how you talk to me about Dubai, man?
Dubai, go on. What do you want to know? I wasn't there.
Everything you got to say, man, because people were saying this is where our form could turn around. Obviously, Kai Havertz has now been injured in Dubai. A lot of people, why are we rewarding failure, obviously, with going on a nice holiday? Where are you at, man?
My sense is, and I could be wrong, have you slightly not turned, that would be unfair, but are you slightly on a bit of a down about the season in terms of where we could go with it?
1,000,000%, Alex, man. What the fuck? Can you see what I'm seeing? No. On a serious note, naturally, because for me, I would say collectively as a club, I like Arteta. Me and you have spoken about this. I like Arteta. I do think he's a genius where he's coaching and things. My question is getting over the line. I look at what I've seen Mikel Arteta do in the last couple of years, where the players are at, and actually the club, so those that make the decisions. And ultimately, like, as much as we're crying, we're second. Like, I just feel we're fumbling our own opportunities and we're kind of doing it again. Like, me and you spoke at lengths about the summer. Cool, the summer's gone. January's last chance saloon, whether it's getting a loan in the Premier League and making Neto permanent and getting around that, whether it's getting a loan abroad, whether it's accelerating summer plans, whether it's, I'm not saying that we need to get these guys, but a Morata or a free transfer, we did nothing. So then I have to look at it and say, not necessarily Arteta or the players, because I think they want to win trophies. I can more criticize how we've gone about it. But collectively as a club, for what you're telling me and what you're doing based on these last two markets, we can't be that serious about winning the Premier League title, because we're not even putting our own best foot forward. Forget everybody else, just how we're assembling the squad. Like, we needed bodies. I know the logic around it, bro. Like, you don't want a body that's just going to be a body for the sake of it. But I feel, considering this climate, we needed that. And we did nothing. And not making a decision, not doing anything is a risk in itself. So, yeah, it's a downer, man. Like, I could sit here and say mathematically it's not done. We're in the champs. And that's true. I want the players to go as far as they can. But I can't sit here and it's raining, bro. I can't tell you the sun's shining. I can't. I really can't.
No, mate. And you know how generally positive I am about this club. I feel almost exactly the same. I don't think we're going to win the league. I think our chances in the Champions League are very slim. I think we can.
I tell you these things.
We can push Liverpool to the end, but that's not a trophy, is it? Look, I don't think we're going to drop out of the top four race, as some people have said. I think that's a bit far. But look, we didn't do what we needed to do in the window. I think it's that simple. I think the one thing I would say is, in any assessment of failure, I think the phrase that keep coming back to is, this failure has many fathers. And I really like that phrase, because it's like, you can't pin anything all on one factor or another.
It's like a crime scene with multiple fingerprints, as Harry Simu says, which I think is bang on.
That's another good way of putting it. And I think you have to basically decide who the main suspect is, who the accomplice was, who the, you have to go through like that. And you can't, I'm having conversations. It's completely unlucky, or there's no luck involved at all, or it's
joint enterprise,
or it's completely on Arteta. And it's like, we have to try and have a conversation, a grown-up conversation that's sort of going, okay, who are the main culprits? And for me, I look at the situation we're in right now. I would look at the board. That would be my main. Those would
Expand
be
on that.
My main suspect. Well, ultimately, mate, you have two players who fall over, who in the last year and a half have played nearly 9,000 minutes in Saka and Jesus, and you don't replace that. And like that, it's that simple. And then people will say, well, what about the PSR position? Okay, well, you shouldn't be in a PS. If that is the case, which I don't believe, by the way, the whole PSR, I don't believe we were so hamstrung we couldn't even do a £5 million loan fee. Like, do you know what I mean? But let's take that to be true. If that is true, then is that not mismanagement from the board to not have any margin for if something were to go wrong in January to be able to do something? You have to give yourself a bit of margin. You absolutely have to in the middle of a season. So I think this is massively on the board. Look, overall, their management of Arsenal has been generally pretty good. I would still maintain in terms of, you look at the direction of travel of the team, you look at the investment in the team, especially since they became the sole owners, absolutely. But the concern I have about them, I've said this before, is you have a long-term project. You're building a house, and you don't want to spend over a certain amount of money to build the house, but then a tree falls on the house, and you go, well, I don't want to
go on. I think that's bang on the money.
I don't want to spend any more than I budgeted on the house. So unfortunately, we're just going to have to rebuild by hand. I'm not going to get a crane. I'm not going to get specialists in to deal with this. I'm not going to recheck the foundations. I'm not going to quickly, get a removal team and get the tree out and keep going and see if we can stay on time. I'm just going to stick to my budget. Sometimes things happen. And the thing is I understand this. It's like in life. You have a long-term plan, you have a medium-term plan, and then if something happens in the short term, you have to react. And that's the bit that I haven't yet seen from the Kroenkes at Arsenal. A quick turnaround, okay, there's a situation here. We're going to support the team. We're going to invest. We're going to back you. We're going to say we're not going to chuck this season away. We're going to go and do Ollie Watkins. For example, Ollie Watkins, let's say, again, this is all reporting, but let's say Ollie Watkins was 40 million. We would go there. We wouldn't go to 60 million. If we spent that 60 million pounds, if we wanted the player, everyone said we want them. The only sticking point is there, which again is hard to know, but let's assume that is for the sake of argument. That 20 million pounds, we make that up like that in a UEFA Champions League quarterfinal to get into a semi-final, or even I think getting from the round of 16 to the quarterfinal, you make up.
And we're probably going to be in it next year.
2/3 of that, exactly. And we've already earned more from the Champions League this season than we did last season because the prize pool's increased. So yeah, I really look at the board. Then, and then we'll come on to other factors. Then you can look at Arteta and his training methods. There's a lack of information about that. I don't know, but you have to look at it at least. Are we signing injury-prone players? There has been a bit of bad luck. I saw something yesterday in terms of the red cards that we're -5 expected points based on just the red cards this season alone.
How far does that go, though, man? I'm just asking you, how far because I do feel, like you said, you got to approach this with balance. I'm not saying you're not, but I do think depending on what Arsenal fan you speak to, you know what side of the agendas they're going to go or what they're going to choose to leverage kind of, right? But how far does that go? Like, I look at the injuries, you know what, let's actually stay on theme with the injuries. The injuries are fucked. Like, we've clearly had a lot of bad luck in that regards. Players are getting injured in training, people are getting injured in the bye, people are breaking down in games. Gabriel Magalhaes is falling on Mikel Merino. It'd probably be another segment in itself if me and you spoke about the players that actually haven't been injured. Now, I'm not blaming the manager on this necessarily, but when the managers come out and said we've got two of the smallest squad, well, twice last year we got the smallest squad. In the build-up to the City game, he said we came into this season with 19 players, right? 3 or 4 long-term injuries, trying to compete in 4 trophies. The maths, for me as a simpleton, the maths does not make sense. So it's like, I do have to ask. I'm not saying that these shouldn't have happened, but why didn't you recall Fabio Vieira in January? Or why did you let him leave? We all know Smith Rowe wanted to go, but why did he go? For me, I don't feel we improved the starting 11 or the depth. And I can't have it both ways with Arteta. I can't say the team's in your image, praise you for the depth and all of them things, and when it goes left, not ask questions. I do agree with what you're saying with the board. I'm more leans towards the board because even if Arteta left, I don't think we're set up for sustained success. I think obviously if we won the league last year, I couldn't guarantee that the summer that we had last year would have been very different. But how much of it comes down to Arteta? Like you alluded to training methods. as well.
Yep. Again, it's all, you have to, let's say there's 100% of a problem. I'd probably put something like 50 to 60% of the current predicament on the board, and then it's other factors, and maybe Arteta's and the coaching staff are a 15% of the issue. I think at the moment right now, I don't think he's holding us back tactically. I think the only team who've tactically outclassed us are Newcastle. His involvement in the transfers, well, we know that he hasn't got a lot of his first team targets, and he's had to pivot to people in the past.
We ain't even got a sporting director as well, which is,
we haven't got a sporting director, which is which is not entirely, which isn't on Arteta. Also, when we come back to the injuries, I don't know if you saw there was an article out from, I think You Are My Arsenal, which I can link to you. There's some really good data in there. Just get this up on the screen if you can. I'll put it in the private chat. And there's a whole conversation about fixture congestion and, the Premier League in terms of the amount of injuries is not just ours. In terms of hamstring injuries have gone up. The rest days are less than any other league in the world, whatever. So my point is not I'm absolving any one factor of anything. You can sit there and you could make a cogent argument. You could say, if you scroll down a little bit and go to, so there's like some data there in terms of the increase in types of injuries. So there's a context here, is my point, and there's one a little bit further down about the context between the leagues as well. There's a context here to injuries. I will say this. My point is not Arteta is or isn't at fault. My point is not the board are or aren't at fault. I think there's, as we said, there's many fingerprints, there's many fathers to this. It's up to each individual fan to decide where they want to say it. I will give you my opinion, which is what I just said in terms of probably 50, 60% of the board, 20, 30% Arteta, then some injuries and some, and then we go through like that. But I'm really pushing back against this. It absolutely isn't a bit of bad luck. It is a little bit of bad luck. That is
There's
a factor.
multiple factors, 1,000,000%.
Exactly.
But that, for me, that's a season. You're gonna get bad luck on and off the football field. Like, as an Arsenal fan, I know it's easy as an armchair expert to say this, but I'm looking at it as last season compared to this season. A team that wants to win a trophy. You've seen your gaffer at the beginning of the year, 2024, say we've got one of the smallest squads. Now, we had a quote unquote clean run last season with injuries, right? But you still missed Timber, you still had Tomiyasu, you still had Partey. I would have hoped the Cronkies would have sat there and said, you know what? We were lucky last season, but let's make sure we put our best foot forward. Again, we can get into the micro, Fabio going, this guy going, that one going. And then I would demand a bit of that on Arteta. And it's a bit of a side note, kind of continued with this. Unpopular opinion. I think you're bang on the money, and you done well to bring up this article. Obviously, in the wider schemes of football, there's something to be said about players being, ran to the wire, like injuries and fixture congestion and all this for club and country. I hear that. I agree with all of that. They're never going to stop that. We all know here, footballers are guinea pigs. Like, they are guinea pigs. The fat cats just have them playing bare games, right? But at the same time, I actually think it's got something to do with that, but I think it's more recovery. I don't like, you've seen social media, you've seen people sit there and go, why are we so intensive in training? I don't mind that. I think you've got to train the way you play. My issue is, because we've got injuries and already depleted squad, it's more of a case of a bit here, like recovery time. You've got a small squad, you're running guys into the ground. And I think everyone could have seen Kai Havertz against Wolves. He looked spent. Even a couple of games around that period, he's looked knackered. He's looked like the hamstring stuff could be an issue. And, where you look at Martinelli now, where you look at Kai Havertz and obviously Saka, there's got to be a correlation with quote unquote overplaying these guys, having a small squad, and them three in particular, hamstring injuries. Because the reality is, we didn't do nothing in January. Our first choice front three is not here, bro. So it's like, how long are we going to keep having this conversation? As you said, I'm not just blaming the Cronkies, because the Cronkies could turn around and say, listen, we took a big risk taking Arteta, who was a novice manager. We've given him a new deal before the ball's been kicked. We've let him sign goalkeeper and left back galore and do all of these things. Since we've taken over in 2018, there is a correlation. It's a bit muddied. We're looking at how they've invested, but we have given him everything he wants. So I can't just lead a crusade against the Cronkies. As you kind of said, it's a crime scene where you've got multiple fingerprints. And then the sporting director, I must admit, when I peel back the hood, it just seems very comfortable. It seems like from the Cronkies, they're cool about the top four. Now, where I look at Mikel Arteta, unpopular opinion, Alex, I don't care about what he's good at no more. And I don't mean that in a disingenuous way. I know what we're good at. It's like, let's just say I'm a student and I'm revising for science. If I can ace chemistry and I can do that and I will pass that without anything, why am I going to keep focusing on that? It's biology I might have to look at and do some improvements. Now, my point of waffling about that is to say this. It's about the small margins. It's about the game management. It's about going up the gears. It's about tiny bit more adaptability. I think there's me and you have spoken about it. It was a case of, I feel in the summer, probably getting some players with a bit more quality. And I think it's either incompetence, negligence, naivety, or something else. Now, I don't know in the last 2 windows if these lot have made offers to Mikel Arteta on players and he said, forget that. I don't know if Arteta's pleaded his case and they've aired him. So they talk about collaboration. I think they're all with this. And as a side note, I want to ask you, and I have to ask you this. As much as we like Arteta, if we're here next year saying the same old things, specifically in being second or the year after that, how long's a piece of string? How long before we revisit, okay, you've done well, maybe we have to go about this a different way for you?
Well, I think I've said this before. When I feel that he has been supported to a reasonable position.
You broke our transfer record on Rice, bro. You don't think he's been supported, being devil's advocate? 65
not this season, and when the margins are so thin, we can't simultaneously say the summer window wasn't good enough and he's been supported to the maximum. I agree with the former thing. I think he's close to being supported to the maximum. I think one more genuinely, I think I'm approaching a point. I've said this before. Somewhere in the next 18 months, whatever happens, something has to happen. But if he is, even in the next 12 months, if he's supported in this summer transfer, and let's say we go out and get Isak.
Because didn't we say the gloves were off this summer?
Yeah. If we go out and get Isak and we go out and
well, I've got a bone to pick with you with Isak, but we'll get onto that.
He's spoken about investment in the forward areas. If we go and do that, if we have more reasonable injury luck, which I like, the injury luck this season has been insane, and no one can argue that. You really can't. If you scroll down on that list as well,
we've hardly got any players to pick from,
bro. Just to come back, you said go down to injury frequency.
Where do you want me to go?
By competition. You just keep scrolling. There's a little table. I think it's past these testimonials. About the leagues. So, for example, we look at this at even the Premier League.
Can everyone see as well? If you want me to zoom in, comment. But take us away, Alex.
But point being, look, it's not forever with Arteta, and it never has been. And if you go back and listen to our previous conversations, I've never said, "Oh, I will back this manager forever." It's until I feel.
Go on, obviously,
Arteta sexual. I do think there's something in that though with some people. Genuinely, I do think.
No, 1,000,000%. They love 100%. Him and Calafiori. No, 1,000,000%. There's all inclusive. If you fancy him, but just say that.
100%. I don't disagree with that. And I hope maybe when the Arteta project started, I was probably a little bit more fully sold on it. But I think as it's gone on, I just want to win, mate. Ultimately, we're so close, but there has to come a point. And as I've said before, if we get to a point where I feel he's been fully backed in terms of the attacking talent, which I think is the big red herring, which hasn't happened. If I feel he gets luck, basically within the same luck, by the way, we had last year with injuries, we had a fully fit squad. Even maybe a little bit less than that, and I'd be okay to start talking about that. And if I feel that there's not some kind of freak situation, I'll be looking at him. Absolutely. And then you make a decision from there. You don't just go, okay, well then a lot's on the manager, so therefore let's sack him. Let's do that. Football isn't 2 + 2 = 4. It's not
black and white. It's a simple game, but it's so simple, it's complex at the same time.
It's really hard. And for example, you're on a night out, you're trying to pull. You've worn the right clothes. You've gone to the right bar. You've pre-drunk just enough so you're confident, but you're not over the top. You're with the right people who are going to get you in conversations. You're in a conversation with a girl. Turns out she has a boyfriend, or whatever it might be.
That's never stopped anyone.
Listen, you don't talk about your private life. I won't talk about mine. But my point being that you can do absolutely everything right, and it just doesn't happen sometimes. And this season, we haven't had the right clothes. We didn't go to the right bar. Do you know what I mean? I think we've got the right personnel. We're with the right people on the night out, but it just wasn't right. So tomorrow we go again. If we get everything right at some point, you go, okay, well, I think it's down to you. But that's within 18 months. I would say is probably my time frame. And as I say, you have to start looking. Even, mate, even if maybe we do get, let's say, a season-ending injury next season to one player,
God forbid,
I'd be going, it's one player. But this season, injury-wise, has been we don't have a striker, bro.
But did we put our best foot? I hear you with that. You are right. You're not lying, yeah. But there's also a second part of that. Like, obviously, I'm not expecting us to have 30, 40 players, yeah. And I know it's not as easy as being said, but it is kind of quote unquote predictable in that you're competing in 4 trophies. There's a point where you're playing 3 games in 10 days. You're having a small squad. You're having to play players anyways, you know. And I think what people forget, yeah, the vast majority of our squad, or the key players, it's not just this season, it's last season. And it's also, I'm sure during COVID, there was a back-to-back Euros and a World Cup. So you look at the Declan Rices, the Sakas, they're playing 70 plus games. So it's like less players, more games. This was always going to be the case, really. So this is why I go back to what I've said about it's a crime scene where everyone's got multiple fingerprints. And for me, with Mikel Arteta, rebuild, all of that stuff, amazing stuff that you've done. Yeah, whether I've agreed with everything or not, whether you could have been sacked at points or not, everything you've played a part in. We're second now. We've been competing. That's the short of it, innit? It's now about getting over the line. And I can't say as a club, those above Mikel Arteta, we put our best foot forward. And I can't say Arteta has as well. Like, obviously, I know it's easy for me to say, but you've been here long enough. Maybe you could have told little lies to Fabio and Smith Rowe about leaving. I think you made a good point. And this is why I kind of look at the club, yeah. When you hear this PSR stuff, obviously, positive balance sheet, want to be self-financing, all of that stuff makes sense, yeah. I personally feel it's PR-y. We've been briefed that that's the thing. I think internally they want to do that rather than they're crippled by PSR and have to behave like that. So then it makes me want to ask you this, yeah. Obviously, as Arsenal fans, we're getting to that stage now where it is all about next season. It's a bit of a twofold question. Do you think we'll address all areas? And do you think the club have set themselves up for failure if they don't get everything done? And maybe not necessarily names, but if we just look at what Sesko, that's a forward. Nico Williams, that's a winger. Zubamendi, that's a centre mid. Even the Garcia lad in goal. Do you think like they've set themselves up for failure if we don't get that right this summer?
Yeah, I think so. But you said something there, and you said that you don't think the board has put their best foot forward, which I agree. And then you said you don't think Arteta's put his best foot forward, and I agree, but I want to quantify that. So my version of that is his role, which would have been big in the Sterling signing, and then not playing him. That's a big fault for me. That's really poor because it's
rate him.
It's given minutes. You've signed him and then not played him. He's
replaced Reece Nelson.
It's really poor. That's his role, and that's not just him, but it's his role in that I'm talking about. His rotation through the season generally, I think we could have gone further, although he has actually rotated more this season. His approach to the Newcastle games, actually in both the league and in the cups, I think was
especially the last one. Very rarely, and you said it at the beginning, like the one and the second leg of the League Cup. That's the first time in a while I'm like, yeah, Arteta, he's had your number from a coaching aspect. Yeah. Everything's gone wrong in that. So I think you're right.
Absolutely. The performance against Man United in the cup, I think, was abysmal as well. Like the way we handled.
I blame the players for that, but go on.
No, fair enough. But that's what I say, Arteta. So those are my things for Arteta. Are those unforgivable mistakes, given their individual games, a bit of rotation here and there? They're not the tactical model. They're not the usage of one player forever. They're not, and maybe you could. The problem with the training methods or running our players into the ground. Maybe we are, maybe we're not. No one in this chat, not me, not you, not anyone has the data to prove it. No one does. So all we're looking at is outcomes. We're looking at hamstring injuries and we're saying, well, that it must be Arteta. Well, hang on a minute. Even if he was rinsing them, even if this was they were ignoring all the data signs, absolutely, then we would still have to look at things like this on the screen. We'd still have to say that's still a factor, even if he is rinsing them.
And what if the players are saying they're fit in their heart? They know they're not.
Yeah,
so it's essentially guesswork to a degree.
Exactly. So we're doing guesswork. So my point is, can you quantify the things that you would have preferred that you've been disappointed with by Arteta this season, and then therefore from that list, how much can you take? Is it acceptable? Is that an acceptable level of shortcoming?
I would say for me, it's a thing where, as I said, it's a weird one because I think you're a good coach, Arteta. Me and you are fully aligned in that. Me and you could sit here and waffle about all the good things we like with Arteta. But I'd say for me, now I have to look at it harshly. And this goes for the players, this goes for the club, because you lot are telling me you want to win league trophies. It's the fine margins. Now, I feel 9 times out of 10 now, unfortunately, Arteta, we do a lot of explaining about fine margins. We're never on the right side of that. That's where my issues are now coming from. Like, one big thing that I have an issue with Arteta is, like, we're playing tomorrow, right? Saturday. I have no doubt Mikel Arteta on a Monday and in the build up to the game on Saturday, he knows the opposition more than they know himself. We all know he stifles teams, low blocks, all of that stuff. My issue is that when we've gone in that, it's like being a boxer, right? It's like me and you are going to have a boxing match. I think I know how to fight against Alex. Alex, in the first 30 seconds, punches me in my nose, does something I don't expect. I don't have a solution for it. I don't have a contingency plan. Now, of course, there's been times he's flipped the script and done stuff, but I think 9 times out of 10, he kind of dies on his sword and kind of plays the same way. Like, that's where I mean in terms of fine margins, because the fine margins or getting them right, that's what's going to get us over the line. We finished 2 points off City. Take the good, keep it good, and make it better. It's the fine margins, and some of it is the transfer market, because I do feel it's down to quality now. Like, as much as I want someone that could do what Saka does on the left-hand side, I'd argue 50% of that. I like Kai Havertz. I think me and you know, we're never going to get into the Kai Havertz thing. I think any of the issues with Kai, you can't necessarily blame him beyond the obvious. I think if I'm saying he's one of our more consistent and clinical forwards and has a better output than a lot of players, right? That kind of tells you the issue we're at if we want to be a team that's going to win the league. I think Kai can contribute, but he's not a proven consistent goal scorer like that. But if that is what I'm saying, then we're not really building stuff. And at this moment in time, with us still being in the Prem and the champs, Saka and Kai Havertz are your match winners. You throw in Martinelli, you're without your front three. And I want to circle back on Raheem Sterling, yeah, because he's got a chance now. You know, we've got 16 games left. He's going to play 15 at a minimum, right? Because he can't play against Chelsea. Do you have any faith that, you know, Sterling can be the talisman? We go back to the summer point to prove he's one of the more experienced players now. Yeah.
Look, mate, I would love to be wrong. I would love a Raheem Sterling.
He doesn't have no faith.
Remontada, but I have no faith. I think it's one of the failures of the season that I don't think has any upside to it. I maybe a bit of mentorship for Miles and Ethan. That's about it. I really think it's appalling. Like, from everyone involved. I think in terms of the timing of the deal, because we'd already played Premier League games when we got them through the door. In terms of the timing of the deal, in terms of the nature of the deal, maybe the structure of the deal is quite good because we're not paying them that much in terms of wages. It's not worked. It's not worked. And then we haven't gone. It didn't work in January and resolved it. We've stuck with it. And I think it's based on probably a pre-existing relationship where Mikel doesn't want to say to Raheem, "Look, mate, this isn't working. Let's move on." I just to come back to what you're saying about Mikel, would it be fair to say then that your issues with Mikel are not I don't want to use the word stubborn, but a kind of a persistence with one way of playing that doesn't always equal getting over the line?
No, I don't. Go on.
No, I'm trying to understand what you're saying. So is that what you're saying, or is it something else?
I think. Go on. I keep cutting you. I need to actually listen to what you're saying to answer it. I feel like I'm in a press conference.
It's just you are, mate. And also persistence with certain talents. Is that fair?
No, I feel Arteta's his own worst enemy. Like, and again, if I was a fly on the wall at London Coley or whatever it's called now, I might look at it differently. But I think collectively as a club, we shoot ourselves in the foot. And I think the gaffer does. I know he's called stubborn. I actually don't mind the manager being stubborn. Everyone's got to be it's a double-edged sword, because you've got to have humility to kind of change things, but you need that stubbornness. That stubbornness has got us to second. And I don't want to keep saying second like it's a trophy, but it's got us here. It's just the fine margins now when things are going wrong. I like the fact.
How can a coach turn those fine margins? I mean, what you said there was attacking talent. That's
breaking down low blocks. I don't feel the pressure cooker ever goes up. I feel we're kind of committed to playing the same way. It's very structured. We'll move it to the left. We'll go to the right. I feel in the final third, I don't feel there's that healthy bit of randomness. I feel like it's too structured and cool. You could say whatever you want to say. And I'm not comparing him to Arsene Wenger. Forget all the good players that were at the Emirates. I've seen us play great football with shit players. So I can't really understand it. I know some of it comes down to the players, but I need a bit more randomness in the final third. I need you sometimes to throw the kitchen sink at it. last season, this season, arguably 2022-23, elements of it was struggling to break down low blocks. And I've seen Arteta hit roadblocks from a tactical point of view, and he's fixed it. So I'm kind of seeing the same things. And I do feel a lot of it comes back to, especially when we're not scoring goals when we really need to, is because we don't have a striker. And that's where, okay, cool, we can part that off with the recruitment. But I feel there's a lot of things Mikel can adjust. I'm cool with the playing at the three at the back. I'm actually warming to the idea of Declan Rice as an 8. We need a long-term partner there. I don't mind Odegaard. You know, I love the guy, even though he needs to pull it out. But I just feel it's very predictable. Now, don't get it twisted. When you've been here for a long time and you've got that expansive brand of football and all of that sort of stuff, or what you're known as playing, you're going to have that. I just feel at times he doesn't change things enough. And again, going back to the fine margins, I feel like I'm watching the same season on repeat. No two seasons are alike, right? I know my team is going to be up there for goals. I know on the face of it, couple players are going to have decent goal scoring records. I know we're going to smash up teams like 3, 4, 5 goals a couple of times a season, and they're going to leave at half time and all of that. But when it's on, like the pressure cooker is on, those 3, 4 games over a 38 game calendar that make a season, like we could go back last season and look at some elements. I think people would point towards the 2 against Aston Villa. I would say West Ham at home, where you're creating a bag of chances and people say Mikel coached a 3-4-0 and the players didn't put the ball in the back of the net. I agree with that, but also I can't, because everything is in your image. If you want Kai Havertz up front to be a facilitator and all of this, that's great. And notice how I don't get at Kai anymore. You're not a proven goal scorer. I feel, long story short, I feel Arteta's done the hard part. It's just about a bit of simplicity, which again, I guess goes back to certain things. It's mainly that. It's just the smile. If you notice, I keep saying it's the small margins. That's the only things I need Arteta to eradicate, and we're flying, you know.
What I'm hearing is there's an element of conservatism in his play and in how he puts things over, which you think holds us back from basically getting over the line, which I would probably agree with. That's what I'm hearing, and I would probably agree with that. I think there's games this season where, you know, for example, I've spoken on my channel about transitions in terms of not necessarily you need to become a counter-attacking team, but when we do have transitions to take control of them properly, our sort of conversion rate at some point was like we had the highest number of high turnovers in the league, but then the 14th number of turning those into shots. We went down to 14 in terms of actually turning into shots. So, yeah, the lack of chaos. I'd completely agree with that. I wouldn't disagree with that at all. My only counterpoint to that would be, I think you can go further with that. But every game model has its flaws. Every single one. Klopp's, Pep's, Slots, or whatever. And I think Arteta can get a touch less conservative. And I think that probably would help us over the line. But to me, the way bigger factor in that is attacking talent. The way bigger.
You were telling me not to sign a striker. Like
I don't think I was.
I got a bone to pick with you, and we've got to start this. Yeah, I remember once we were sat here, and I said Isaac could be good, and you were telling me it's going to kill the relationships that Kai Havertz has up front and all of these kind of things. And I saw one of your tweets, and I don't think you're wrong for where it is. People where you basically said, "Okay, shoot me for believing Kai could do it for a number of for the whole season based on the second half of last year." I think that's naive personally, but now do you see why we just need a gunman, bro?
If I said don't sign Isak, hold my hands up. That was wrong. If I said that, I doubt I
you
said
for that comment. And we're going to get into Gabriel Magalhaes, but go on.
Okay. I doubt I said don't sign Isak, but I can't remember what I said to be honest. And if I said don't sign Isak, I was wrong. I think the big thing that I have changed on recently is I think we've spent the whole rebuild being very structured, very systematic. It's kind of what we were just talking about, the conservatism, being very structured, very systematic. Ultimately, William Saliba does absolutely everything right on that. Was it the Jacob Murphy goal, the first one in the second leg at the Carabao Cup? Saliba gets in front of him, does absolutely everything right. And Isak, Inspector Gadget, puts his leg round in front of him and flicks it around the corner. That's attacking talent. Mo Salah, 2 goals against Everton. Well, I felt at points, certainly points in that game, Everton were the better team, genuinely. There's 2 points. There's a point of difference, which is Mo Salah, an unbelievable ball in, I think, outside of his boot, was it? I can't remember. It was an unbelievable cross into McAllister, and a moment of magic where he controls that ball like unbelievably and slots it in the bottom corner. That's attacking talent. That, for me, at the moment, is the biggest difference. And I've been going around the houses, so maybe this is where I need to take my share of the blame or whatever.
Well, you ain't got no blame, no share of blame. You're not making the decisions, bro. You're just a fan.
If I got something wrong,
we've all been wrong. Nobody, and that's the thing. Yeah, sorry to cut you. I'm gonna let you go on, but that's one thing that annoys me, especially with content. It's a more haha. Alex is right. Deluded is right. Wrong. Deluded is wrong. Alex is right, brother. It's we all just want the team to do what it needs to do in it. We're having to put our opinions out here, but yeah, now go on.
New information has changed my mind. Shoot me. The
Facts.
I think basically I've been there before saying, okay, if we can tweak this small thing, if we can tweak that turnover, if we can tweak maybe Odegaard's positioning, if we get, maybe that player in this position, if we pull the Saka inside, that's the sort of stuff I'm doing. And for me now, I'm going, it's attacking talent. And I said this on the overlap. Other teams sometimes tell you about yourself, and it's important to listen. You can get too caught up in your own Arsenal little world. Sometimes you look at another team and you say, they just look really chaotic. Or you look at, I don't know, City, and you say, they just look like they need legs in the middle of the field. And probably a City fans going, no, it's not just Rodri. So just step out a second. What's everyone been saying about Arsenal for years? Attacking talent.
Just need a forward, and talent. Same old, really.
And one of the ways that we can know this, when was the last time Arsenal scammed a win? I mean, we were poor and we scammed a win. I genuinely think
I'd say Aston Villa early first half of the season, like first couple of games. I think we scammed it in the second half. Aston Villa at their place. That's the last time off the top of my head, because I feel we were kind of poor in that game. I remember Ollie Watkins, ironically, the man that's been linked with us, he missed a couple chances. I'm sure Partey and Trossard scored in that game. I might be making it up, but that's the last time I can remember, smash and grab, we nicked it kind of thing.
If that was on aspects of, maybe because of the Watkins chance and the Raya save, so I think maybe we got a bit lucky. But what I mean is more, we play terribly, the other team totally dominate us, and we just nick a win. Doesn't happen.
No, we ain't done that in a minute. But that's what I mean about the fine margin. Those 3-4 games, that's what gets you a league title, bro. Like, how good are you when you've been terrible? That's where I feel it's us against ourselves. That's why I'm even more peed off than when Arteta took over, when Emre kind of failed, when we were just shit. We're actually all right. Like, unpopular opinion, I actually think we're a bloody good football team. We finished second and all of these kind of things. My issue is, Alex, now, when you look beneath the hood, anyone that understands football to a slight degree, it's not that these are false images, but it is. Like, you want to strike. We could see Arsenal need a striker, but some Arsenal fans could be deliberately obtuse and say, oh, we got 90 odd goals. This one got double figures and whatnot. But when you break it down, Saka's the only one that's going to do it for the majority of it. Yeah. Then you've got Kai, who did it really for the second half of last year. Then you've got the Jesuses and Trossards. And I'm not criticizing them. This is just the reality. They're going to chip in here or there. We're going to batter teams. They're going to get a little brace. Martinelli, I love him. End of the day, him and goal scoring is a bit of a myth. So when you start to break it down, you can see the issues. And I know it's difficult in the market and all of these things, but that's why I'm harsher on the club, bro. If you tried to buy Sesko in the summer, you didn't just wake up in the summer and you wanted to get him. You've been scouting that position for a while. The same goes with the flanks. And I hear it about not getting your first choice and you don't want no one else, but you have to make it happen. And that's where I pivot back and I ask you again, like, do you have 100% confidence that in the summer we're going to address these areas?
I don't have 100% confidence because I don't think anyone can. But I do believe, again, I believe this in this long-termism that the Kroenkes do. And they will do whatever is right for the long term, for the next 5 years. Now, is that an issue sometimes in a January window when your players are falling over? Yes. But in the long term, I do believe we're going to go out and spend big money this summer. And I do believe we're going to address a lot of issues in the squad. I genuinely do.
Like, what kind of, better yet, without specifics? Like, obviously, if you just, one, what areas do we need to address? And two, based on that, what's a ballpark figure? Is it 250? Is it 300? Is it 120? What are we kind of looking at?
Just quickly before I answer that, I just want to come to this comment from Doc Smith. This is absolutely true. But look at how many goals we scored in games like West Ham, Sheffield, those sorts of games where we spanked teams. What, DG, I think you're referring to is the games where it's those fine margins where the difference is attacking talent. It's not about volume of goals. It's about goals in moments where the game is on a knife edge and you need someone to just pull it out for you. That could be Saka, but we need to add more, and that's attacking talent. That's what it is. I think over 200 million. I also think there's going to be some sales this summer, mate. So I wouldn't be surprised if we spend 250, 300, because I think we can absolutely, if you look at the squad, I've got it up here. So I think in terms of who we know for sure, Tierney's going to go. That's done. I think there's a possibility Kivior might go. I think there's a possibility Zinchenko might go. There's a possibility Tomiyasu goes. There's a conversation with Miles's Juventus and Real Madrid, etc., wanting Calafiori last summer. If they come in for 70, 80 million for Calafiori, We're having a conversation. I'm
that
not saying
ain't happening, man. Come on, man.
I'm not. No, no, I'm not saying I want to sell him, but I'm saying that if we get a big offer for him, who was wanted last summer, who knows? Partey might go. Obviously, that frees up wages. We'll get a fee.
Would you give him a new deal? Side note.
Partey.
Yeah, because you said 2 names. In fact, better yet, would you give Partey a new deal? And like, where you at with Tommy as well? But I don't want you to lose your trail of thought. It's just a good side note there.
I'll come back to that. Partey might go. We won't get a fee for that. Jorginho might go. Jesus probably won't be able to sell him, but there's a possibility. Martinelli might go. Trossard might go, and Sterling obviously will go. That's a lot of potential exits. Now, again, I've had disagreements with people this before. We've got so much to do in the summer. Well,
slightly.
Depends what you want. It
that is a lot to do, though. Even though it's not, but it is a lot, surely.
It depends. You can, when you wake up in the morning, you can write a to-do list, and you can write, do my tax return, clean the whole house, buy new wardrobe, do my work.
Valentine's Day, get some flowers today.
Valentine's Day, you could write everything you possibly could do that day, or you could say, what are my essential things? The essential things are, I would say, 2 forwards and a midfielder. That's essential. That's 3.
2 forwards. Oh, are you talking at 2 strikers or an inside, like a winger and then a forward? Because I disagree. If you're saying 2 strikers, I don't think we're getting two out and out 9s.
I think a centre forward and a wide player. But then you could say, okay, we could leave the second goalkeeper for a year. We could keep Kivior and Zinchenko around, or we could extend Partey and Jorginho. Do you know what I mean? You could go.
There's a lot of possibilities.
Yeah, exactly. So it just depends what you want to do. But my point being that there's a lot of potential exits this summer. So I think it will probably depend on what the market's saying. I think minimum 200, maximum 300, depend on sales.
Do you reckon we're going to spend 300 though?
With sales,
right, let's go to the top end. Yeah, no, with top ends, but like you really could see it. I'm a bit conflicted because I feel you can always scout players. Me personally, I don't care if you sign a player for 5 million or 500 million. If you've done your due diligence and they really and truly can bring something to the squad, great. But I do kind of feel now we're at that stage where the players that make the difference, you're going to have to pay the money, innit? You either get, I don't know, the Cunhas, the Kuduses, the Isaacs, the Seskos before they're at where they're at now, and obviously the price tags that come with it, or you just, I don't want to say be humble for obvious reasons, but you might have to just say be humble and say, this is the market, this is what we've got to do. So I think you're right. Like, what is the business we can't afford to do? Because as much as I feel there's going to be a lot of incomings and outgoings, me and you both know the club or football clubs, you're never going to do everything in it. We're not going to flush out everyone that needs to go, bring in everybody that needs to come in. What is the essential business? Like, let's just say if that was 100%, what's like the 60, 70%, the essential business for you that we have to do going into 2025, 26?
I think it is, for me, a midfielder, because one of Jorginho and Partey will go. The absolute essential is a midfielder, probably someone like a Zubimendi, and a forward and a wide player. So at the moment, let's say Zubimendi, Isak, and Semenyo. That I think that would be the essential stuff. And then everything else is kind of dependent. And I think this is probably how we go into the window. We think we absolutely need this. We absolutely need this. And if we can get this done, great. You know what I mean? I've seen people say, this is, Kessie, it's a lot of money. Kessie spent 235 million euros or something in 2023. Yeah, 235 million euros. And that's with 69 million pounds worth of sales. I think there's a possibility, if you look at, if you're signing a wide player and a centre forward, you're not keeping everyone, are you? Someone's going to go. Trossard, Martinelli, someone, that's probably a decent amount of money. So I don't know. I think with sales, with wages off the books and stuff, I think it could reach 300. I'm not saying it will. I'm saying there's a scenario where it would. I think probably the minimum is 200.
This scenario needs to include having a sporting director, whether it's Jason Ito or somebody else. That's the baddest thing for me. Now, I'm not naive. I still think planning is going to happen without a sporting director, but it just doesn't look good for a team that finally looked like they got a bit of stability. For me, I need to see a striker. I need to see that long-term 6 if Rice is going to be the 8. I need somebody on that left-hand side that, is going to do a thing. I know Ethan's come up. He can play in a bunch of roles. He can do a thing instead of Saka if he's not there. For me, it's about improving the 11 and the depth, and especially 2 of those 3 attacking positions. And I think you're right. There's some players that are evidently gone. Partey on paper's gone. I'd give him a new deal. I don't know where you're at. Tomiyasu is a bit different because I'm a bit biased. I love the guy, but at the end of the day, you're never here. So there might be a decision to make, although you could caveat that and say no one's going to buy an injured player. Jesus is, the less said on that, the better. We're not ripping up his deal or doing any of that. So there's some players you can make a case for leaving. Trossard as well, as you said, with the contract. I wouldn't let him necessarily go. So it's a bit of a techie one, man. And the club have left themselves no margin for error, especially if they want to achieve what we want. How do you feel about our transfer policy? Yeah, because if you look at Garcia, right, the goalie that we're linked with in Espanyol, you look at Zubamendi, you look at Nico Williams, and you look at Sesko, it seems like they all have a release clause. And on one hand, Arsenal are cool to activate that. But on the other hand, we're on this kind of, we'll pay a bit more over your release clause if you allow us favorable terms. What do you make of our policy in that regards?
Yeah, again, I think it's long term. We look at players 2-3 years in advance, and we start saying, okay, well, when's going to be the optimal time to get you? I'm sure there's all sorts of clauses and release clauses about, people say release clause. Well, there'll be, from this date it's this, from that date it's that. The way, there'll be all sorts of stuff. So, yeah, I don't know. I just think I'll go back to it. Look, when we were saying about Arteta, when are you going to sort of have that moment of saying, okay, we might need to move on? If the Kroenkes don't spend significantly on the forward areas, significantly, I'm willing to have a conversation about are they the right ownership to take us forward. It is not.
Do you believe that? Let's start there. Do you believe they're the right ownership?
For now, yeah. Because
what's your concerns around them then? I'm gone.
What I've outlined in terms of the long termism, but in terms of and reacting short term, but long term, mate. How do you judge an ownership? You judge it by where a football club is headed. We've literally been doing that in terms of league position. We haven't got over the line. I'm not saying we have, but we've literally been doing that in terms of league position. We've been doing that in terms of commercial revenue. We've been doing that in terms of good feeling around the club.
How much money have you bought?
Well, yeah, but okay. But would you rather have an owner? And you need performance on the pitch, which, by the way, largely we're seeing. But even the merch, stuff like that, they've maximized that. I feel like Arsenal, in terms of the cultural impact, they're maximizing that. So under their stewardship, since they took full ownership in 2018, we've spent money, we've got better, we've gone up the money ranking leagues. It feels like, generally our youth system's got better. So by every way you judge an ownership, they're pretty good. Now, are they going to do everything it takes to get over the line? We'll see this summer. Do I have concerns about them long term? Yeah. But mate, you could have the Friedkin group. You could have, that Bill Foley guy at Bournemouth. You could have what's his name? Jim Ratcliffe. If you look at other owners, I think we have this image of like, well, our owners aren't perfect, so we need new owners. Hang on a minute. Who's the perfect owners? Is it Todd Boehly? Well, he's not perfect. Is it the guys who've allegedly made 115 mistakes in the transfer market?
I was waiting for when you was going to mention them.
Are they perfect owners? Not sure they are. Is Jim Ratcliffe a perfect owner, making Sir Alex Ferguson redundant? He's not. So Liverpool, FSG, how many years have Liverpool fans been complaining about spending and the fact they don't spend? There are no perfect owners. So if I have a little bit of a concern about short-termism with the Kroenkes, and I believe they're going to go and spend £250 million on my squad this summer, I think it's okay to say, look, that they're probably the right guys for now. And then we review it. But like, look around. There's no perfect owners.
I think you're bang on. And I'd say for Arsenal fans, again, I'm not saying you have to believe me. I'm not saying that they're the perfect owners. Neither am I suggesting that Mikel Arteta has no criticism. But I feel, rightly or wrongly, at this moment in time, there's two things I would say fans have to accept. Kroenkes are not going anywhere anytime soon. Like, let's be honest, they're not going anywhere anytime soon. Whether you believe Arteta is or isn't the guy, he's not going anywhere anytime soon. They're not tearing up his deal. So we have to work within the remit. And of course, you're right. Owners are perfect. Todd Boehly, I think his heart's in the right place. How you're going about it is terrible. I'd say Newcastle fans are happy with their ownership. City probably. That's Nottingham Forest. Probably a couple of other examples here and there, but I think generally every fan base, as you said, would be critical. FFG, I personally think the Kroenkes are looking at that model in which, not that your FFG can say they haven't invested, but like Klopp's quote unquote performed some miracles in it without getting the war chest. So I think they're kind of looking at that. And this is where I said, like at the start, you can't just get at the Kroenkes, because at the end of the day, their decision to bring Mikel Arteta here, which was a risk. Like, I'm not trying to gas them up or do any of that, but he was a novice manager at a delicate time. They've taken him. We're second now. They've backed him in the sense of, me and you have just, I sound like a hypocrite. I just said, I don't think you've been backed, but on the face of it, you've been given money. You've been allowed to break the club record transfer fee. You've been given 65 million for Kai Havertz, left back galore, centre half galore, yada, 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 really. So I can't say you're not backed. At the same time, though, Mikel Arteta is not an idiot. If you go and join a certain company and the ethos around it, you need to work within that framework. I can't say the Kroenkes are the reason we didn't win the league last year. I can't say the Kroenkes are why, without context, Mikel Arteta hasn't necessarily got over the line in cup competitions. That's where I think it's multiple layered. They're not going anywhere anytime soon. Unpopular opinion, bro. I'm not against finance, self-financing, the balance sheet, a lot of in principle what they're doing in it. I don't think that's a bad approach. It's just a couple times it needs to be the exception of the rule. There's that, and there's also where I look at the Kroenkes. It's a thing where if we won the league last year, of course there's an alternative universe. Like we was linked with Nico Williams. He might say, I don't want to go Barca or stay at Bilbao. You lot won the league. I want to come over there. If Arteta and Arsenal genuinely said to Sesko, you're going to be behind Kai Havertz, I don't care. You lot won the league. I'm going to go over there. There is that reality to it, or even better players than them. But I'd also caveat that by saying, bro, I genuinely think we have the same window. I think we have the same window, whether Arteta's to blame, whether the Kroenkes gave money, whether Edu is incompetent. I think we have that exact same summer window where there was really nothing really to push us to the next level. Shout out Calafiori. Mikel Merino's done his thing, but that's why we have to work in that remit. I can't convincingly say a new manager is going to get over the line. I can't say persisting with Arteta is going to get over the line. What I would say is, though, we have to be open to everything, and every time that this conversation comes up, like if we're talking the same kind of stuff a year from now or 2 years from now, there's a decision to make with Mikel Arteta, or there's a decision to look at the Kroenkes. I mentioned Moreno's name there, and I want to get your thoughts on it. Obviously, we can't get away from the front three. There's rumors that Saka's there's been a bit of a delay with Saka. We know Havertz is out, Martinelli's out. Do you put Moreno? There's been shouts of Moreno up front, Sterling up front, Kiritini. Where do you look at our front three, man? Or do you think there needs to even be a formation change in a sense? Give me some optimism, man.
I don't. I think there's a number of options, and obviously, what's on paper isn't necessarily what translates to the pitch. I think if you think about the pitch, I think probably we have enough in terms of Ben White returning and Kieran Tierney, and as well as Raheem Sterling and Ethan Nwaneri, in terms of players who could hold width. I think we have something in that. And, Martinelli's not miles away in terms of coming back. I think he's only going to miss 3 or 4 games because we haven't got that many games till the end of March. And then in the centre, you could do it in terms of runners from the midfield with Rice and Merino. You could do it with Trossard as a false 9. You could do it with Sterling inside. You could do it with
Ethan to a slight degree as well.
Ethan inside. So I think there's a number of options. I'll be really curious what happens. I'm not against Merino because I think in terms of as like a flick on almost target making runs, he's actually quite good. He's quite good at finding space in the box, Merino. But
I'm not gonna lie, it sounds ugly, bro. But desperate times for desperate measures, man.
I suspect what he'll do is Nwaneri right, Trossard middle, Sterling left, and then Rice making runs from the midfield. That will be it'll be the sort of almost like Rice and Trossard as like a double centre forward. Essentially, that's what I suspect we'll do.
I think we need that, bro, because obviously, and it'd be interesting, it goes against logic because when Gabriel Jesus was our striker, when he's got a look in, we have gone long with Raya, and what would you say? Gabriel Jesus about 5'8", 5'9", kind of thing, kind of that region. So he can kind of play with his back to goal. That's not Trossard. So I'm interested to see how Mikel Arteta gets around it. Like you said, if Moreno's going to be like the focal point and we work off that, if we're going to change formation, I'm personally of the belief now that, Ethan, Sterling, Trossard, one of you is going to have to take it game by game in it. One of you is just going to have to be the number 9 and be the sacrificial lamb. I do think we have to look at our academy, whether they're good enough or not. The Kion Edwards, the Sego Juniors, the Nathan Butler or Dejis, they're going to have to play. We got 16 games, bro, on paper. Not everyone's going to be able to play 90 minutes. And this is all assuming no one gets injured. It's scary, man. Like, all my eggs are in. If I did have any hopium or copium or any of them buzzwords, I can't lie, it's in Sterling, innit? Because obviously Ethan as well, but it's in Sterling. You've been written off. You've not done anything to scream and shout about. You're a culture player for a culture club. It's looking dark, bro. It's looking very dark, man. I can't see light at the end of the tunnel, man. Shout out Wokes' football. I like his channel, to be fair.
Yeah, I can't see Sterling doing anything. Sorry.
especially if he's on the right hand side. But why do you think Arteta puts him on the right? I can't tell the gaffer anything, but him on the right hand side is nasty, man. At least on the left, he looks a tiny bit better, just like against Girona. I know we missed the penalty, but
yeah, it looks better. He looks better. He actually looks better on the inside on the left as well. It's not even
exactly
out wide. Yeah, I don't know. I don't get it. And the thing is the fact is we were all calling for something in the forward lines last summer as well. So yeah, it's contextually one of the worst signings. Like Pepe, for example, like.
Nah, Pepe was way better than him. I can't lie.
But as in, like, obviously you spend huge money on him, but he was actually all right for a while. He had like a decent numbers. He didn't work out, and like the team moved away from him or whatever. And like it's a bad signing because of the money, whatever. But Sterling is like, we needed something big. We didn't get it. We've signed someone who is nowhere near our level. And
I remember it was on deadline day as well, Alex. You know, like remember that
it's so bad. It's just so bad.
And that's the thing, and that's where supporting my club, I wish I was a fly on the wall, you know, because you look at deadline day, we're scrapped. Clearly, we made a mess of whatever we wanted to do in the goalkeeper market in the summer because we're scrambling on deadline day. We obviously made a mess of it with Sterling. I'm a bit Calafiori and Moreno. I know fans will say that took a bit long, but I'm sure there was things that needed to be done with that. But that's where I'll be honest. I said it in the summer. I'm sure I said it with you. It's that I hope we win the league. But I mentally checked out in a sense of, for me to truly believe Arsenal can win a league, I need to look at my team and feel 100% confident. These men are going to score goals, X amount of clean sheets. These are going to perform when other people can't. How good are we at our worst? Yada, yada, yada. And I just feel going into this season, there was too much ifs and buts. There was too much romanticism around it for me to be saying that. You know, again, all I've done this live stream is big up Kai Havertz. But it's for me, it's romantic if I think Kai Havertz is going to do it for a 38-game calendar. If Martinelli's going to find his form, if we're going to have a clean run with injuries, if the fine margins are going to go for us. I don't want to be that Arsenal fan, but we all know there's inconsistencies with the refereeing and things like that. Unpopular opinion, just like against Wolves and a couple of other times, we've shown that whether it's right or wrong with the refs, we've shown we can still get a result. I feel a lot of the times when we've cried about refs or moaned, like even the Brighton game when I was there, even when we went down to 10 men, we still could have nicked it. I feel there's other things we could have done. That's for me, it was about fine margins. It was about the gloves being off, fine margins. How can those 3, 4, 5 games a season over 38-game calendar that make the difference? Can we get over the line? And I didn't have that. Now in January, I feel that was like bigger. I can't remember the content creator did it with somebody. One of you, I'm doing streams all the time. Somebody said January was like a pit stop, bro. Like that's a pit stop. Like if you think the summer was terrible, we've got an opportunity to do something, and we didn't. Like we didn't. Whether it's overpaying for Watkins, whatever it is, we didn't do it. So is it a thing where maybe Arteta wanted players, the board wanted to, and Arteta was being naive? Either way, we didn't do anything. So I have to be a bit naive as a fan, bro, and say, you lot are cool with it then. You lot think we have enough. So I have to judge you appropriately. It's not looking good, is it? Like, it would be the best achievement I've seen in my lifetime if we win a Premier League chance from this point. But that's romantic, bro. Have you watched Coach Carter or Mighty Ducks by any chance?
No, I've heard of Coach Carter though.
Well, bro, watch these movies and get back to me. Watch those movies from start to end. Watch the All Cool Runners. Watch those movies. And that is us. That's us, bro. Unfortunately, it kills me to say it. And what annoys me is, again, we're actually a fucking good team. Whatever people have to say about our team, we're actually a very good team. Even when we lose, we're going into games. Teams are respecting us. They're camped in their own half. We're our own worst enemies, bro. Like, we're our own worst enemies. Like, when do you think the sporting director thing's going to get sorted, man? Because we keep skipping over that. Me and you have spoken about transfers. Like, how much can get done without my man?
I don't know. And frankly, it's the sort of thing that just needs to get done. Like, it's not even from a process perspective. Like, supposedly Edu was agitating, but you also should just have names on the list and be like, okay, and just announce it. Get it. Even if it doesn't happen till the summer, just announce it that this is what's going to happen. I think one of the big things I've been frustrated with is the lack of communication from above. Like, we used to get videos from like Edu and Vinay and stuff explaining what the deal was. Here's what we're doing. We're going.
They did for Sterling. They said, to be fair, we didn't plan to do this. Edu washed his hands immediately of Sterling.
Yeah. So yeah, I think we're missing communication, and a big part of that is a sporting director.
Who's the guy then? for you. Obviously, you're not a decision maker. I wish. No. I could be a scout. I'll
get you in.
This guy, man. I want a lobby, you know, the sport, the
There's a
sausage.
few, we can maybe go in some YouTube comments and find some people who would probably think they're good enough to be sporting directors.
I mean, that's the thing, man. Everybody's got comments. I got 2 last questions for you. Yeah,
go on.
Do you remember when we sat here, yeah, and you told me Gabriel Magalhaes is on the quote unquote on the chopping block? Can you say sorry to my guy? You don't remember?
I don't think I said that
In the summer. You didn't say that, Alex. You didn't say that. You didn't say that. You didn't say he could be someone to be upgraded on.
I can't remember. If I said that, then yeah, I was completely wrong. I can't remember.
I've been wrong about bare things. I was wrong about Kai initially.
I put apologies to Gabriel Magalhaes. I can't remember. I can't remember saying that, but if I did, then
I got the receipts.
You got receipts, mate. next time I'm on, you need to bring receipts because
I got receipts. I got my L's as well, man. I definitely got my L's, man. I got my L's, but like my last question for you, then, yeah.
Go on.
In fact, 2 last questions, because we're on the Gabriel Magalhaes stuff, right? Obviously, when we're talking about not winning trophies and all of that kind of stuff, we always say, oh, it's the Sakas, the whatever could leave and maybe they're going to want to go. Do you not think Gabriel Magalhaes should be thrown into that? Because he's 27. He's one of the best centre-halves in the world. If I'm completely honest, I love Saliba, but he's carried his hand. I know he loves the club and all of that, but if anyone was to jump at a Real Madrid or whatever, surely it's a 27-year-old versus a 23, 4-year-old. Like, why don't you think Gabriel gets thrown into that? We obviously hope they don't leave.
I think he's very committed to this team and this project. I really do.
He can't afford to leave.
I think Gabriel is the sort of player who won't leave till we win something for some reason. Similar to Rice, actually. Don't you
remember he wanted to go Saudi, or there was rumors it got his head, so you might be able to chat to him.
Maybe, but that was kind of, we weren't sure whether we were going to be able to sustain it at that point. I think he's locked in. He might leave eventually, but I think he knows he can go to he's still, you can still make a big move as a centre back at 30. So I think he's okay. I think I'm sure he's reviewing his options, but I think he's locked in at Arsenal. I do.
I think you're bang on the money, and I think, kind of going back to what we said about there's a lot to do in terms of incomings and selling and all of that. Gabriel Magalhaes, Bukayo Saka, William Saliba, sign the new deals, my people. Please sign the new deals. Who would you rather lose, Gabriel Magalhaes or Saliba? Because I find it very interesting when I ask Arsenal fans this. It's very conflicting. I don't think there's rights or wrongs. I think there's logic behind it. And just see, that's why I asked you. You're doing the calculations. This is why I asked you.
Gabriel, but it's Saliba. I've never seen a centre back talent like Saliba.
I've
never seen it, and you can't. Why
would you let him go?
They're both irreplaceable. But I would go. Yeah, I think I'd go Gabriel just because talent-wise, I think you couldn't find that same level of defending the box and the aggression he shows and the dominance. It's just crazy. But you could go in a different direction centre back wise and have the same quality. Saliba is just he's just a unicorn. He's literally a unicorn. It's you look around Europe and you say, okay, Dembele versus Kvaratskhelia, or you look around, and I'm not comparing Gabriel, but I just think he's that next tier up for me. He's unbelievable.
It's a techie one for me because it's I think we need both, especially because definitely during this Emirates era, we finally got decent defenders. We finally got a great partnership. They're both great in their own right, and they're getting better and better. I personally feel where Gabriel's concerned, people forget he joined us at 22. He's 27. The Bozo genes are long gone. He's still with him. But it's a dangerous one because I feel on one hand, Saliba's a unicorn. He's a generational talent. There's so much things to say about Saliba. We haven't really had a generational talent that we've bought. Obviously, there was context around that, so I could understand it. But then I also feel a long time ago, and I've said this to you before, I've made peace with the fact that one day Saliba's going to be at Real Madrid or whatever. So I've kind of already mentally prepared for that. Naturally, Saliba's scope to be better is higher than Gabriel's. But I just feel, it sounds dumb to say, but for a team that has been close in the Premier League the last couple of times and no doubt will be in these conversations next year, it feels like Gabriel's more of an immediate need. Like we more need him to be there right now. But then he's 27. It makes more sense. Let's just hope neither leave, innit?
Yeah, exactly. I think they're both irreplaceable in different ways, but I just think Saliba
it's like fire and ice, a good cop, bad cop. It's madness, and I'll be honest. Well, I don't mind giving Koscielny a stray because I don't like the way he left the club. But there was a time where Koscielny was regarded as the best centre half at the Emirates era. I once believed that Koscielny and all that stuff. But I look at Koscielny, I'm like, yeah, I can't believe we was ever in the mud that much that we was rating you like that. This is crazy, man. Like, it's mad.
They're the best I've seen in the Emirates era. By
100%, 100%. My last question for you, then, man. Give me a prediction for Leicester. No Kai Havertz, nothing. Surely the Dubai.
I think
we're going to do a madness.
I think we'll be all right. Because we'll have them absolutely locked in. I think we'll be fine. I think it might be set piece FC and it might be, a nicked couple of goals, but I think we'll be okay. I think Nwaneri's going to cook, man. I really do. I think
he's going to.
I think he's going to step away. You need him to, but I think he's going to step up to the plate. 4-1.
Damn, you're just wrong.
I think we'll be all right.
Chess.
I think we'll be all right.
I mean, maybe I'm being affected by the Kai Havertz stuff, and maybe I'm still scarred by Jamie Vardy. I'm not going to be as bullish as you. I'm going to say 2-1, and I think it will be a thing where we start well. I think we'll have that Dubai drug. Like, regardless, we want to do our thing. I think we'll dominate the game, do well, 2-0. I think we might be silly, little brain fart, 87th minute, concede. It looks like it's a bit closer. So yeah, I'm gonna go 2-1 Arsenal, man. Like, my last question before I ask you to promote your stuff. Do you have any hope? Is there any percentage of a Prem or a Champs? Like, we could, like, there must be some hope.
It's mathematically possible, isn't it? I think it's done, to be honest, but it's mathematically possible. And look, I think the big thing for me, if we don't fall away, if we can get, let's say 7 points out of the next 9, and we get Martinelli back, we get Saka back, and Liverpool drop off, it's a lot of ands and a lot of ifs.
It's a lot of ifs and buts, admittedly.
You just never know. You just never, you really don't know. And I think also you have to give players the opportunity to step up. You have to say, the Trossards, the Nwaneris, even the Raheem Sterlings, you have to say to them, look, now's your chance. Show us who you are. While Saka's out, while Havertz is out, while Martinelli's out, while Jesus is out. The one thing I'd say, no team without their 4 best attackers would be able to cope and be perfect. So let's not expect perfection. But you never know.
Let's not expect anything, my boy. Like, we can't expect anything. Like you said, it's a weird one because, as you said there, to have your key players out or your key attackers out, that is unlocked. That is bad fortune. And I agree with that. But then on the second hand, I do find myself saying, if you did this in Jan, if you did this in summer, we'd still be saying this, but you'd give yourself something. So we're going to have to see, man. Weirder things have happened. Let's hope the footballing gods shine on us, man. It would be nice if we got clarity from those above Mikel Arteta and on kind of, and I saw I can't remember what you said word for word, but I think it was bang on the money about that. You kind of said we're kind of owed a bit more clarity or just letting us know what's what, because I just think every fan's deserve that. So we're going to have to see. If not, we just do the optimism for 2025-26, man. So yeah, man. Alex, big up yourself for being here. It's always a lovely time with you, even though it's not really optimistic where Arsenal's concerned. I can't imagine they don't, but promote your stuff, my boy.
Search on YouTube, The Different Knock, also on the Canna Podcast, and you can find me on Twitter at AMOnFootball.
Exactly. And you know what? Twitter, he's a madman on Twitter. I always see you know how to rustle up the Twitter, the Twitter kind of guys, man. I stay out of it. I see how it is, man. But yeah, man, follow him on all his socials. Definitely have to get him back on. Tell George to shout me as well. I'm trying to get him on the platform. I'm sure you lot have agreed and disagreed with a lot of what we've said. So subscribe to the channel, smash the like button. I'm back at 1 p.m. with Dan Potts. So yeah, I'll see you lot in a bit, man. Alex, bless my dude.
Peace.
Come on. Always